Hi everyone, it's Den here. Well, this is potentially going to be one of the most peculiar product reviews I've ever done, and I can almost guarantee the weirdest Olympus 150 to 400 lens review you're ever going to see. But here it is. This is the Olympus or OM Solutions 150 to 400 millimeter lens. Now, in full frame terms, that's 300 to 800 millimeters, and it has a built-in 1.25 teleconverter, which fundamentally means that this lens will take you to 1000 millimeters equivalent. Now, these things are several things. Firstly, they're incredibly difficult to get hold of. I was recently at an event here in Adelaide where the team from OM Solutions came over and they brought one of these with them. Now, I am an Olympus ambassador, which sort of allows me to ask questions like this. And that question was, hey, how would you feel if you sent me over this lens and I had a bit of a play? Now, I had a plan, and as you're about to hear, that plan hasn't quite come off, but that's okay. We're going to have some fun anyway. I am not a sport or a bird photographer. Anyone who follows me will know that on my YouTube channel there is a video where I took this lens, which is the awfully sexy 40 to 150 f2.8 Pro, and I created a tutorial on how to use long lenses to create compression in images, and we made a really stunning light painting image up in the Flinders Ranges using that lens, and the tutorial is very cool. Now, this lens here, which is the 7 to 14 f2.8 Pro, is also an incredible Zuiko Olympus lens that has kind of been my staple for light painting and landscape photography forever. But anyway, see you later, guys. They will stay on the shelf. Unfortunately, this lens needs to go back to Sydney/Melbourne tomorrow. So I'll tell you what my plan was, and then I'll tell you what actually happened. My plan was to try and use this lens to create some sort of astonishing long length light painting images that sort of that highlighted the astonishing length or compression you can get out of this lens. Several things. I've had it for just over a week, and several things made that almost impossible. One is I tried to, down at my local beach, I tried to formulate how we could make it happen where the camera would be way over there and I would be way over there, and someone would be at the camera with a phone and would be trying to make things happen. The couple of people I asked about it were keen. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it down, and we've had some really crappy weather, which makes my experience with this pretty good. But the weather kind of meant that we had some problems at night with rain and cold, and then weirdly it got super hot. And you'll see by this image I'm about to show you, I was at a location trying to scope out some sort of distance where we could make this image, and it was so hot the heat was causing a haze, and that didn't stop at night, and then the lightning and thunder came and it was wild. So, spoiler, I didn't get a light painting image with this lens. I'm not saying that's not going to happen, but we didn't this time because, and the reason I didn't really pursue it is that in order to make it a compelling light painting image, yes, you could have some light painting. So let's say I created an orb, but there kind of needs to be something behind it in the distance that shows it's maybe some bokeh or some light, and there's sort of something in the foreground. Otherwise, it's just, I could create it with this. I could create it at 300 mil and it would be cool. However, I want to share some cool stuff with you. As I said, I am not a bird photographer and I am not a sport photographer, but oh my God, I had so much fun with this lens, and I'll tell you why. It's as simple as this. It was something new, fresh and exciting, and I got my ass down to the beach. Basically, it's where I took it, and I just smashed it out. I had so much fun. I went down for a day where I saw some wind, and I drove along the coast. I live just by the beach, and I drove along the coast, and I was thinking there might be some guys kite surfing, and it was blowing like mad, and there were a whole bunch of people out there kite surfing, and I had a huge amount of fun. So what was it like? Well, The first thing to note with this lens is that it is relatively light. This has got the lens hood on. So with the lens hood off, oh, there's a bit of sand in there. I'll clean that off. It's weather sealed though, so that's okay. So it is quite small. I don't want this, so for some scale and bits and pieces, it's quite small. I have held some long lenses, some long sport Canon lenses and Nikon lenses, and they are phenomenally heavy. And the important thing about, let me just get this lens hood back on. That obviously takes some skill. Here we go. So the thing about having lightweight is that you can be handheld, and what you're going to see is every image that we look at over the next few minutes, they're all handheld, and that means that you can be quite stable. When you're up to your eye, you're not going to be shaking in bits and pieces. And what I found is that meant I could go down to the beach and really easily have some fun shooting. So the kite surfers, unbelievable. I was using the EM1X, which is the Olympus EM1X, which is fantastic because it has grips this way and this way, which meant that I could hold it really easily. But it also has continuous auto tracking, and what I was doing is I was locking on to the kite surfers, and they were going in and out of waves and up and down, in and out of the air. It was blowing very, very hard, and it meant that it would just lock onto them. And I tell you what, I think I came back with about 2,000 images because I was just machine gunning them because I didn't really know what I was doing. Almost every image was sharp on the kite surfers. It was very rare that it wasn't. If I was at 1,000 millimeters and they were, they were going up in the air, occasionally I'd miss them. But I got so many keepers out of this. It was shooting at full speed. I'll check what that is and put it here. On aperture priority, auto tracking, autofocus, the whole deal. And the other thing is this has in-camera stabilization. So I had the image stabilization on the lens, the image stabilization on in the camera, and it was a banger. It was absolutely wild. And I tell you what, I was standing in wind. Here's another. The image stabilization was kind of important because the wind was coming side onto me, which means that the lens was moving this way a lot, and the stabilization kept it pretty good, which was very cool. But the image stabilization was fantastic. Yeah, so the kite surfers were awesome. I had a huge amount of fun there. So in my pocket while I was shooting with the long lens, in a bag, I had a side bag, and I had the OM1 with a 17mm lens just tucked away. Oh, this is not the OM1, this is an EM1 Mark III. But anyway, I had this camera, I had the OM1 in my side, and there was this crazy cloud formation. So I was holding this by my side and literally reaching down and nailing off these shots and just holding both these cameras. It blew me away. And here's the most important thing. Oh my God, I had fun. I came back, I was tripping balls when I came back to the house, because it was something that I hadn't really played with before, was the long lens. So the kite surfing was pretty awesome. Then the other night, so I've been down a few times. I went out sort of scoping for a bit of a light painting session without a huge amount of luck. And then the other night, the red moon, the eclipse was on, and I thought, well, heck, I've got this hugely long lens. Let's see if we can't bang out some moon shots. So I went out on my deck, and I got a chair, and I put the tripod up and zoomed all the way in, and I just smashed out a whole lot of shots on the moon. Now there's some challenges. I've done a lot of photography with the moon. However, I haven't actually shot the moon a lot. The moon moves very quickly. Now this is f4.5 all the way through the zoom range. When you put the teleconverter on, it goes out to 5.6, right? So wide open at f4.5. I was still, even up at ISO's 800, you still needed somewhere between 1 and 2 seconds to get a decent moonshot. But heck, I got some stuff that it absolutely blew me away. Again, super stable, all that sort of stuff. So I got a whole lot of moon stuff. And then I I saw on the Weather Channel last night there was some lightning coming in and stuff, so I shot down to the beach with this and the OM1 with a 17mm on it and the 7-14. And here was something really neat that happened. Weirdly, down on our beach, there were some pelicans, which are not, you don't normally see pelicans on our beach. And there were these 2 pelicans, and there weren't a lot of people, but there were these 2 pelicans, and they were just sitting there. I mean, it was crazy. They were sitting there, and I kind of got up quite close to them and bits and pieces, and I got some shots, and there was this stormy weather, and I got some beautiful storm shots as well. Not so good with this, this bad boy, but the pelicans were there, and I got some awesome shots with the pelican. And the reason that this lens was so wonderful with that is I was able to get some sort of length and compression so that we had a sense of place. Now, it was near a jetty here at Largs Bay, and what this lens allowed me to do was get the pelicans and a bit of sand, and then some water, and then the jetty, which gave us a sense of place. And I didn't have to go close to them, so they were just chilling out doing their thing. Obviously, every now and then I did get up close to them and got some crazy wide shots. There was this moment that happened. There was a young kid sitting with the pelicans, and even though the kid was quite close to the pelicans, I got this really cool photo of the child, the pelicans, and the jetty. And if you're a local down here, it would have been a really nice shot. But again, all handheld, super sharp. I even stood quite close to them, and I say 1,000 millimeters, but at 500 mil, which is 1,000 millimeter equivalent, I handheld a shot of the pelican's eye, which absolutely blew me away. Then I got some shots of the jetty with the color behind and bits and pieces. But really, the overall thing with this lens is that even at 300 mil, everything is pretty tight. Like it changes the way that you see everything. It doesn't have to be something like this, but if you get the chance to have a play with a long lens for either landscape, obviously I've done a lot with light painting, but this lens made going out, that was another moment I had. I went out on a really windy day down in the sand dunes, and there were these birds. There were these birds flying around, and every now and then these birds would leap up out of the sand dunes, and I had the bird tracking function on in the EM1X. So what it does is you put it on, and the artificial intelligence recognizes birds, and it just locks the focus onto them, and you can just track them through the sky. So I was down there waiting by the sand dunes. It was really windy with this, and then what I would do is I'd zoom out to 150 mil, and then the birds would take off, and I'd track them through here, and then I would zoom in and track them through the sky, and it would just lock onto these birds. I reckon I got a whole lot of bang. Now, again, I'm not a bird photographer. If you're a bird photographer, you're probably going to look at these shots and think it's hilarious. But within 10 minutes of walking down to my local sand dunes with this and with the bird tracking on in the EM1X, it got me super excited. So I'm not going to bang on for too long about it. I didn't get any light painting images. It's got to go back. These are in phenomenally high demand, and I just feel very grateful that the team at OM's Digital Solutions sent it down to me to have a play with. I've tried to look after it. It's very valuable. You don't have to Google too hard to find that. But what I do know is that if I had one of these in my kit permanently, I would take it out a lot. And what it has made me do is this lens, which is my 150mm 2.8 all the way through, which is a 300mm equivalent. I'm going to get out and play with this a lot more, because I know that even with the kite surfers, when I was at 150mm with this, I was getting heaps and heaps of amazing tight shots. So it has encouraged me to spend more time shooting long. I don't know. I love it. I don't know. Like I say, I'm an OM Solutions ambassador, so I'm lucky enough to be able to just borrow these things. But yeah, it made me excited. I got some cool shots that I will really enjoy going back to plenty, and heaps of keepers, which was the thing. I thought at that sort of length, when I first asked to borrow it, I thought I would use it for light painting. I didn't actually think I'd use it for what I ended up using it for much at all. So 150 to 400, base it out to 1,000 millimeters. Maybe one day we'll get some light painting done. What I know is there's going to be radios and phones and planning involved in getting that done. I ran out of time with it this time. But yeah, I just want to say a huge thanks to Aaron and Brett and Ante and the whole team at OM Solutions for letting me have a play and see if I couldn't become a bird photographer and a sport photographer. Could be good actually. We could take this thing to Antarctica or something, photograph some penguins, extreme sport. I like it. I like it. Lightweight. That's the thing. Easy to use. I don't know what else to say really. Thank you. Peace.